My name is Danny, and I am lucky enough to be able to work at an aquarium with hundreds of different kinds of fish species. But one of my personal favorites is our seahorses. Did you know that seahorses are actually a kind of fish? Seahorses are amazing little animals, and they come in all sorts of different colors, shapes, and sizes. Now, seahorses belong in a family, and they're related very closely to sea dragons and pipefish. All of them share a very similar characteristic in that their jaws are actually fused. So instead of chewing their food, they're actually going to be slurping it up. These animals are very precise hunters, and they eat very tiny food items such as brine shrimp or tiny little krill. These animals are also very unique in that as fish, they have different kinds of scales than what we normally think of in fish species. Seahorses instead have a bony plate covered by a very thin layer of their skin. It allows them to have a different shape that makes it perfect for the environment that they live in. Seahorses also have a very unique tail. It's actually what we call a prehensile tail, which we see in a lot of different animals such as monkeys, chameleons, and even like our hands. They're able to grasp onto different things. Now, seahorses also, because they are able to sit still for a very long time and hang out in the seagrass environment that they live in, they're also able to have their eyes move in two different directions at the same time. This helps them also find their food, but also be very wary of predators. Seahorses don't have a lot of defenses, so that's why we see a lot of them have a lot of really unique colors, patterns, and shapes to them. You may even see some seahorses have a special kind of crest or different fins off of their head, and this is all unique to the different individual seahorses, similar to us, like how we all have an individual fingerprint. Now, seahorses, again, they don't move around as well as certain fish. They only have their fins on their heads and their backs. So seahorses aren't going to be traveling or migrating like a lot of other species, but that's perfect because we need them for their roles that they play within their own ecosystem, which is the seagrasses. Now, seahorses are really cool in that when they are getting ready to reproduce, they actually pick a mate and they will stay with that mate for their entire lives. Seahorses also have a really unique courtship behavior in that they will kind of do some sort of flirting and dancing within the water column to be able to hang out with their mate before they're ready to reproduce. Something really special about seahorses is that the dads are actually the ones that give birth. So when something really unique, because this is one of the only things that we see in the animal kingdom where the dad's actually the one that's giving birth, but when they do give birth, it's up to hundreds of babies at a time. Now, seahorses, like we were talking about, come in all sorts of different shapes and colors, and they have a moderately big range. Our largest seahorse that we see out in the world is only about a foot long, while our smallest is less than the size of your pinky fingernail. They are incredible little animals. So seahorses need our help, and there is a lot of different things that we can do in order to help them. So one thing that seahorses are facing is that all of the toxins that we put in the air, such as by driving our cars or by increasing our air conditioning, that ends up being in the air, and our oceans actually will take those toxins out, and that ultimately affects a lot of the fish species that live there. So some ways that we can actually help them is by turning our air conditioning off or down when we leave the house, or instead of using a car, use public transportation such as a bus, or ride our bikes or walk. Seahorses are pretty amazing animals, and I hope that you learned a little bit more about them today and have a smaller appreciation for these tiny yet beautiful little animals that live in our oceans.